I will say my favorite hire is the Pete Carroll hire. I think
It's
it's a
so
great hire.
weird.
It is, but you have to look at it like in a sense. If there's a guy out there that can take that organization, which has been trashed since the '70s, even when Bo Jackson was there, but he's a guy that went into Seattle when they were garbage, turned it around. He's 73, but he still relates to young players. He's super energetic. He's a tough coach, but he's still not firm enough on the players where they'll hate him. So he's not like a Belichick. So his relatability with these players, man, I think is going to be great. And if they go in and they bring in Shador Sanders, I think it's a good fit. But I can't think of another out of all these coaches that got hired that could go to the Raiders and take this job. Like that's a job I don't think I would want. The Raiders and Cowboys are two jobs. You're just like, really, that's the two that are available.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Beard Zone Sports Talk. My name is David. I got Carlos and Scooter with me tonight. And fellas, the stage is officially set. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to be facing the Philadelphia Eagles for the Lombardi Trophy. We're going to talk about that game more really next week because we have a lot to cover. But let's go over these games. But before we do it, do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, because that is the best way to continue to support us this NFL season, and we appreciate all the love and growth that we've been seeing over here. Welcome to the Beard Zone, man. It's been a fun year. But, fellas, AFC, NFC championship game. The NFC championship game, boy, that was pretty one-sided. Are we surprised with this outcome? I mean, because Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders for this game, obviously they went on the road, they beat the Bucks. But the biggest surprise was that they went on the road and they beat the Detroit Lions, who were the favorites to go to the Super Bowl this year, being the number one seed in the NFC. And Detroit honestly just didn't have an answer for them, but they did have a lot of injuries. Then they go into Philly, which is a healthy defense, very strong defense, number one defense in the league. I mean, they kind of got shut down. So, was this an easy road to the Super Bowl for Philadelphia? Are they going to be able to, I think Philly is a good team, but were we surprised with that outcome?
Yeah, I mean, they did have a pretty decent, easy road. The Commanders upsetting the Lions, who had probably 50% of their roster on IR. I mean, it is what it is. I think the Eagles have been incredibly dominant, not only on the defensive side of the ball, as everybody knows, but their run game is spectacular. I would love to see how that actually plays out against a defense that can defend the run. And especially like the Chiefs, they have really good secondary. So, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are going to be probably hurting for some catches. It just depends on how they scheme against it. And the front four for Kansas City, I mean, the Eagles have probably their toughest game in the Super Bowl. The Commanders, I think, just they couldn't ride the hype. They're very junior, very new. Like this is their first year together and everything else. So if you're Dan Snyder, you deserve that. But on one side, you got a lot of hope for the NFC East, especially with the Eagles and the success of the Commanders. I think the Commanders' defense, though, just couldn't take it, man. They couldn't stop the run. Saquon ran, 60 yards right off the bat when the Eagles took the ball?
Yeah.
And if you stop the run, though, what does that really look like for Philly? Because Hurts didn't put up anything spectacular through the air.
No, they ran the ball. I mean, that was kind of their thing. I think they definitely saw something that, hey, we could run the ball. I mean, they've been running the ball on everybody with Saquon, but we saw Hurts get a lot more active in that running game. I'm telling you what, I've never been so agitated when it's 2nd and goal and they're only a half a yard away and they kept doing that stupid false thing, trying to draw them off sides. At that point, they were literally toying. There's footage of them talking about it on the sidelines of just toying with the Commanders at that point. So I kind of figured that's how it'd go. I mean, the Commanders had a really good season, but I think Philly is definitely the more dominant team on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're right. But I honestly think that Commanders might have taken one for the whole NFL on that little whole scenario down there on the goal line. And because we might see the tush push ban, starting next year, or at least some rules that are, that are going to encompass it, where like you can't put two of your, biggest dudes behind your quarterback and push him forward, So might be some rule changes there this offseason. We'll see, but at least for now, the tush push still continues to live on, and we'll probably see it a couple of times here in this upcoming Super Bowl. But let's go to the AFC game. Let's go to the game that really everyone is talking about. Scooter, I already can feel it. I know that your blood is already boiling. You've been amped to get behind and on the mic this week to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and the refs and everything else like that. But before we get into that, because I know what's coming from you, Scooter, I have to say, as frustrated as I am, because I just don't want to see the same team in the Super Bowl, and I wanted to see the Buffalo Bills. I wanted to see Josh Allen in the dance, but like Josh Allen said, in order to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. And right now, the champs are the Kansas City Chiefs. And as good as Patrick Mahomes is, as good as Travis Kelce is, as good as that defense is, we can't forget about who is running the show there, and that's Andy Reid. I mean, this guy is a hell of a coach, and the way that he was able to draw up some plays there at the end of the game to really seal it off. I mean, you can't write anything better than that. I mean, that's just who he is. He had plays. You're gonna see, that's Andy Reid. You're gonna see plays that you've never seen all year. Like, this guy has just, his playbook is so deep with so many new schemes and so many new different looks that it's just hard to go against him. It's hard to have a film session against him this late into the season because you're just going to be seeing so many new things. But at the end of the day, Buffalo Bills, they had a couple of chances to really, at least, I mean, they were in the game the whole game, right? But they had a couple of chances to win the game. Obviously, I mean, Kincaid dropping that, I mean, just full circle with, from the previous week with Mark Andrews dropping the ball, now Kincaid dropping the ball. I mean, so that came full circle with them. But then you also look, they were down in field goal range and they continue to win for it on fourth down. And it's like, at some point, you got to understand who you're going up against. And I know field goals aren't going to win the game against the Kansas City Chiefs, but come on, get the points. It's gonna make it, it's going to be favorable to you. And at the end of it, it would have been favorable to them. Think if they would have had, an extra 3 points there on the board. But at the end of the day, Kansas City won. Were there some questionable calls? Yes. Were there some non-questionable calls? Yes. But we talked about it before. It's going to happen when you're the king.
Yeah. Now, I do have a couple things to say. I don't know if they would have necessarily changed the outcome of the game since Roger Goodell wants who he wants in the Super Bowl. It's very clear. You have a system in place that you can measure and spot check things from a computer, and it's 2024-25, and we haven't done it. It's just two dudes in a 10-yard chain and two referees who can't understand where the ball actually is and if it crossed the plane, which it did. So there's that. There's that 4th and 4 inches or whatever it was. I agree. They should have kicked the field goal, I think, twice when they were in field goal range, and they chose not to. Again, I'm not sure if that changes anything. The 4th down probably would have changed something. They also did a terrible spot on that 3rd down when he technically converted. So there's that horrible spot again where a computer can come into play and the human error is out the window. Then you have the catch that Xavier Worthy didn't get. That was not a catch. It was either an interception or an incomplete pass, and they fucked it up. Period. That's exactly what that is. I have no qualms with that. It should have been incomplete. Period. the whole referee.
I can't argue with that.
No, there's no physical way he actually had possession when the defender jumped over him to grab the ball with both hands, and then it touched the ground, and he had to reestablish possession. He never had possession. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, they got beat. It is what it is. And quite honestly, I think the Bills' defense just couldn't stop the scheme, right? Kareem Hunt had 2 touchdowns with the same exact play, except Kareem Hunt had the first touchdown. Patrick Mahomes had the second touchdown for the read option side. So there's that. Josh Allen couldn't get Keon Coleman to catch the ball. Kincaid dropped it like Mark Andrews, like you said. I don't know if those 2 or 3 key calls come into play in the actual scheme of it, but yeah, I'm pissed.
Can I just say something here, Carlos, before you jump in? So, Scooter, I know that you're a Bills fan, and I mean, it's just been really rough to be a Bills fan over the last, 3 decades, 4 decades? I mean, it's just, you have the 4 Super Bowls in the early 90s, and then you have to deal with Tom Brady, going into the 2000s for the last 20 years, and now you're having to deal with Patrick Mahomes, and so it's just heartbreak after heartbreak. But you know what? Sometimes the Bills, they just kind of do it to themselves. Let's take a trip back down to memory lane. And Patrick Mahomes was a draft pick that they traded away. Now, granted, Patrick Mahomes, no one knew that he was going to be Patrick Mahomes, they did get 3 draft picks out of it, but none of those players are currently on the Buffalo Bills. And then let's fast forward to just this past draft. And the guy who torched them all night on Sunday night in the AFC Championship game, they had an opportunity to get him, but they decided to trade that pick away to who? The Kansas City Chiefs, and that's Xavier Worthy. And they gave Patrick Mahomes that speedster. So you can't, I mean, at some point, yes, you do feel bad, right? Because you like Josh Allen. I like Josh Allen as a football fan. It sucks. I mean, over the past, there was like a montage of his like post-game conference after each loss to Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, and each one just got more depressing. Yeah, I mean, it really did. But so you do feel bad for the guy, but gosh dang, man, I mean, you gotta also kind of look at it. Now again, the whole Patrick Mahomes trade, I mean, I get it. No one knew who he was going to be coming in. But to not have a single guy still that you got in return on that current team, it's not a good look. So maybe they're doing it to themselves.
I will say, without Andy Reid and Nagy, Mahomes is not as good as he is.
It's tough. Here's what I think.
What with Doug Peters staying in the Jags? He sucks.
I don't think so. I think Mahomes is going to be, when it's said and done, he's going to be the best. I think he's gonna break every record. He's going to end with, whether we like it or not, 5, 6, 7, 8 Super Bowls. Here's the thing with that game, and I like Sean McDermott, but what's hurt the Bills throughout the years is that they're out-coached. The other head team's coach, or head coach in another team, has always been better. With Belichick going back to the old days, now you have Andy Reid. McDermott made some stupid calls. You have a running back that's averaging 6.5 yards on a carry, and it's 4th down, and you're gonna leave it up to a spotter. I've seen multiple different angles. I don't know how you spot that. I don't know how a human being spots that ball correctly. But you have a guy who's averaging 6.5 carries, has been having a great playoffs with James Cook. And that's what you're going to do with a very good offensive line. That Bills offensive line from left to right is very good. Even to where you get rid of Stephon Diggs, and who's the replacement? Amari Cooper, Keon Coleman, Shakir. We're talking guys that are, I mean, besides Amari Cooper, Coleman, does he even play on the Chiefs? Like, is he a 4th? Shakir's not getting on the field. And you give him, like you say, Xavier Worthy comes in with a chip on his shoulder. It even said before the game he had something to prove to the team that traded him away, essentially. So I just feel like the Bills, they're built to get to that moment, but they're not built for that moment because it's proven time after time. They get there, they're just not doing it, and it has to come down at some point as the head coach. You have a good athlete at quarterback, probably one of the best, or he is one of the best. You have James Cook, offensive line, your defense is good, but at some point, but I don't think it's all them either. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are built with Andy Reid and just Spagnola, you just name it across the board with that team. They're built to play any game that you want to play. You want to get down and dirty and grind it out? They'll grind it out. We've seen them do it this year. You want to put up some points? We'll put up some points. So they're built to adapt, and I just think that's what makes them. I mean, I'm a fan of watching history, and we're going to see. I think we're going to see our first three-peat. I just don't see. It's just a team that's so adaptive, and their coaches are so good, man. In 2 weeks to prepare, I don't see it for the Eagles.
And Andy Reid coming off of a bye week, because technically this would be the bye week, is an absolute monster. And on top of that, Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, is 0-8 against Patrick
0-8 against Patrick Mahomes. This guy can't beat him either. So, I mean, I think they're good. I do agree. I don't think the Worthy catch was a catch. When we were watching the game, I saw the ball touch the ground, and I would have been okay with it just being a no catch, but he got the whole tie goes to the runner thing. But I saw the head of the tip of the football hit the ground. So I don't think it's a catch. But, again, I don't get a say in the decision. So, but I think the spot, I don't leave that up to that. Unless you're the Philadelphia Eagles and their tush push is a 3-yard gain, why they just don't do it every play, I don't know. But not with James Cook and that line. I mean, if anything, I would have done something. I would have spread them out and took my chances somewhere else. But it's hard. I don't feel for the Bills because I'm a Dolphins fan, but I would like to be in their shoes of that heartache. Oh, dang, we just got to the championship game again. But I think at some point you got to look at McDermott. You have to look at the whole staff. Like, if he can't get over the hill again, when do you change it up?
Yeah. Well, speaking of changing up, let's go ahead and let's shift. Like I said, we will talk about the Super Bowl all next week. Super Bowl week is going to be next week. So we will be, dropping videos out next week to talk about the game, and we'll be keeping up on all of our social media with, all of the latest news that comes out surrounding the game. But we'll go ahead and we'll move forward. And to talk about some head coaching vacancies that were filled. I'm pretty sure that we are on our last head coaching vacancy, and if I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere today that it looks like all signs are Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for, I believe, the Eagles, is looking like he's going to be the head coach of the New Orleans Saints when the season is completed. So I'm pretty sure that's the last head coaching vacancy we have. But there was some surprises. Pete Carroll to the Raiders. I don't know how many saw that. Ben Johnson to the Bears. Carlos, you called that earlier in the season. But Aaron Glenn to the Jets. We have some coaching shifts here. Which one really kind of stands out to you guys for where we're looking at a possible, next, hey, this is a new era in this city for this football organization. And, the future is looking brighter just with this move here at head coach.
Good one.
I mean, let's start with the first piece. The biggest joke of the carousel goes to the Jaguars because Liam Cohen now looks like the guy that got accidentally invited to the barbecue and brought O'Doul's.
Oh, man.
He brought O'Doul's.
I'm telling you guys now I'm telling you now, I've been watching video of this guy. He has something. He has a little bit of that it factor. Watch what he's going to do to that culture of that team. I'm telling you, I watched this whole thing from where he pulls into the parking lot. It's just meeting the players. It's just, it's different. But before you got young guy who obviously can call plays. I mean, he's given Baker the best year he's ever had.
It's
I'm
going to be
telling you,
great when they go 0-17.
I don't think so,
I
man.
don't know
I
if they
think
will.
he's got good. I have this. I don't think they're a playoff team. I can put that out there now, depending on how they draft and what they do. But I have a feeling he's gonna turn some heads up there.
I will say though, I do like the transition from the Detroit Lions to the Jets and Bears. I think the Bears got Ben Johnson, probably the biggest key for them to see if they can kind of get this Caleb Williams train moving. That's kind of the only thing they were missing is to kind of scheme around the kid and move forward. So I think the NFC North is going to get more competitive moving forward. And then you got the Jets, who just seem to go after defensive coaches. That's all they've been doing for the past 20-something years. And I like Aaron Glenn, man. He was doing a lot with almost nothing in Detroit's injury train that they had going on the entire year. I just don't know what that translates to with all of the drama and Aaron Rodgers, but I do like Aaron Glenn's style. And I think that's going to benefit the Jets. We may see a transition in the AFC East as well, depending on how they perform next year. You got the Finns, who really only needed just 1-2 games to kind of make a break. The Bills are definitely the team to beat. And then you got, I don't know what's going on with the Patriots organization, but it's beautiful when they fail. And
Well,
then
they
you
got
have the
Mike
Jets.
Vrabel.
And,
I think that's the best hire. I think
Really?
he'll be the biggest Mike Vrabel. I think he'll have a huge impact with that. I don't see 6, 7, 8 wins next year for them. They still have too many pieces to fill, but I think that's a great hire of when you talk about mentality and what he's going to instill back to that team, because it's going to be hard nosed like when he was at Tennessee, hard nosed playing tough. He actually has a good quarterback now. I think Drake May's going to be a good quarterback. They just don't have enough. They're still, I think, a couple of years away unless they go out and spend some money in free agency. There's that rumor with Tyreek getting traded there.
So is Godwin. Godwin's up potentially for a franchise tag. So we could potentially see 2 wide receivers shift within this market too, not just coaches, but you're looking at schemes.
Can you imagine Godwin, Brian Thomas Jr., Evan Ingram, and Christian Kirk? Same team with Liam Cohen. Oh my God, Bucks fans would. Oh my God, I didn't.
They don't have any defense, but yeah, that's fine.
Oh man,
that's gonna be. I thought of that. That was a thought of mine when Liam Cohen went, because I think Godwin's a Buck for life. I really do. I don't know if he'll be persuaded to go somewhere
Todd Bowles
else.
Shouldn't be.
I don't think he is. Evans is going to be around. He could. He
just extended him 2 more years.
Yeah, he's got 2 more. So the Bucks want to. I think he will be. I will say my favorite hire is the Pete Carroll hire. I think it's a
so
great
weird.
hire. It is, but you have to look at it in a sense. If there's a guy out there that can take that organization, which has been trashed since the 70s, even when Bo Jackson was there, but he's a guy that went into Seattle when they were garbage, turned it around. He's 73, but he still relates to young players. He's super energetic. He's a tough coach, but he's still not firm enough on the players where they'll hate him. So he's not like a Belichick. So his relatability with these players, man, I think is going to be great. And if they go in and they bring in Shedeur Sanders, I think it's a good fit. But I can't think of another out of all these coaches that got hired that could go to the Raiders and take this job. That's a job I don't think I would want. The Raiders and Cowboys are 2 jobs. You're just like, really, that's the 2 that are available.
Or the Browns.
The Browns. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I have a hypothetical here, and I feel like it's probably a little bit of a stretch, but because Pete Carroll is now with the Raiders, they do have a big need at the quarterback position. They're in a fantastic position to go ahead and get someone like Shedeur Sanders, and definitely draft, for their future. But there's someone who is also going to be on the market. I don't know what his value is going to be. That does have a history with Pete Carroll, and that's Russell Wilson. Do you see maybe a reunion with Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll, or do you think that it's just that ship has sailed?
That's it. I think that's what was killing Wilson at the end. I think there was a personal thing that happened in his life. I think that affected him greatly with his best friend dying of cancer, and then the him and Pete Carroll just weren't. It just was that mojo wasn't there. Actually, I think he needs that he needs that new blood out there. Like he needs if and Pete Carroll needs to bring in some young bloods in there. He needs a young quarterback like Cam, Shador. He needs something. I don't think Wilson's an aging dinosaur, man. He's not on the right direction they're looking for.
Yeah, I agree with Carlos. I don't know if like you saw the marriage early on in the Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, beast mode, Legion of Boom in Seattle, and then I think it just kind of fizzled out. You had some personality conflicts and everything else, similar to how the Bucks were in the 02 to 05 with Gruden, right? You had a pretty strong set of personalities and veterans, and it just didn't end up jiving. People started asking for too much money that they thought they were worth, and they went somewhere else. I think Russell Wilson's best interest is to kind of hang on with Tomlin and the Steelers because, I mean, they were clicking. They just need to find some more pieces for George Pickens to rely upon instead of just him. I think if you have a pretty healthy wide receiver core coming. I don't think it's A-list like we've seen over the past few years, but some of the Ohio State cats are coming. Same thing with LSU. So you still have some healthy wide receivers coming through this draft to kind of help out the Steelers in this. I'm trying to think of where Russell could potentially go. Unless like Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert start wearing out their analyst favoritism was, I don't know where else Russell goes. He's on the tail end of his career, unless your name's Aaron Rodgers and you just play till you die. He doesn't look bad. He's in great shape. He didn't put up any terrible numbers, but he wasn't really pushing the Steelers to threaten the Baltimore Ravens. So there's that.
Yeah. Well, it was a thought. Now I do have something to stick with the Raiders. So they are at 6. So, you have the Titans, the Browns, the Patriots, and the Giants ahead of them in the draft, right? And the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars aren't going to take a quarterback. New England's not going to take a quarterback. Giants might. Giants are maybe in there. Cleveland, I don't know. I mean, because now we have this whole thing with Deshaun, how he injured his Achilles, and so now he's even, can he come back for next season? And then you have Tennessee, which is in a spot to get a generational player like Travis Hunter, but they're also in need of a quarterback. So
they need everything.
If they need, well, fair enough. But if the Raiders are going to be doing this, how can they? Are they going to? They're going to have to move up to get a quarterback here, right? Because it's either Sanders or Cam.
They don't. I've seen some mocks where it kind of falls in their favor. It's the Browns that can throw it off if they go with the defensive end from Penn State and just make that defensive line that's a huge addition to the defense. But
man, with Myles Garrett too, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be a tough one. But I can't imagine them not going quarterback. Like, God forbid that.
I mean, if Tennessee and the Giants take 2 quarterbacks, like right off the bat with Cam Ward and Shador, I think that's where you see some shifting by the Raiders. It really depends on who the Giants pick number 1. Everyone knows when you go number 1 in your quarterback pick, you're putting a whole lot of trust in that cat. Like, you can get Sam Bradford.
But after Cam Ward and Sanders, what quarterbacks are there?
Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers.
I don't know if I take it. I like Jackson Dart.
Same.
I don't know if those are top 10 guys for me. I don't know if I could take that risk. I feel like Cleveland has to take or Titans are going to take a quarterback. They're all in. It's just which one are they going to take? Are they going to take Shador or are they going to take Cam? Because after that, you never know. But yeah, you never know, man. But the Raiders, when you look at a Raiders team, they got a ton of money to spend next year. Like they could go out and get a T Higgins, bring in another big wide receiver, plus draft a wide receiver. That kid out of the McMillan kid, man, you put those two on the field together with Brock Bowers, you might be able to roll with a Gardner Minshew or O'Donnell. I don't know not for long, but
they still need a little O line. They fall in the same categories as Tennessee, and the Cleveland Browns. Like they all need O line. But who's playing quarterback for the Browns? I think that's where they get a little desperate because I think Deshaun Watson's already been ruled out for the next season. And they don't really know how to score a ball without throwing 6 interceptions a game. So I think you see probably some relative desperation from the Tennessee Titans, and then the Giants need some form of answer on offense because, yeah, they put up some stats with Daniel Jones, but after that, it was really pitiful.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do. You got teams up there that dire need a quarterback's problem. There's not enough of them.
But at the same time, though, we've seen the success with these A-grade O-line and a B-list quarterback make the playoffs. So there's that. And you look at Tennessee's play with Levis. You look at Tennessee's play with Rudolph. You look at the Browns with or without Watson. You look at the Giants with or without Daniel Jones, and their O-line is awful. You watch the games with the Raiders, yeah, they're about 50-50 on their O-line, but they were getting wrecked 9 times out of 10 with edge rushers. So do you invest in your tackles? Do you invest in your wide receivers first? I would rather see teams actually address their core issues instead of doing this easy fix quarterback throw in there like the Bears, and they need an O-line bad to protect Williams. You look at the championship teams, and they invest in their O-line. Their quarterbacks are 9 times out of 10 drafted after the first 15 teams. So, yeah, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers may be a second-round pick, but they get behind a decent O-line. They may look way better than Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, where you got the Cowboys potentially in the mix because they're getting tired of Dak Prescott. I understand he's got his contract and Jerry Jones loves him, but he hasn't even made it to an NFC Championship game, and you got Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts, who've been to the championship more times than the Cowboys have, and they're younger than the Cowboys.
You might be able to, if one of these teams played outright like a Browns, you might be able to take the best player available at that time, which could be the defensive end from Penn State or Travis Hunter, and then you take your shot, like I said, a late round pick, even like a Will Howard. I kind of think they could get Jackson Dart in the 3rd round, but even the kid McCord from Syracuse, Ewers, somebody late, and then if not, and if you want a veteran, Sam Darnold's out there next year.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
And
I can't wait for this offseason, man.
Yeah, it's going to be
I'm excited for the Super Bowl, but I really can't wait for this offseason because I feel like it's going to be a pretty crazy one, both college and NFL. Like, I feel like it's just going to be – there's going to be a lot of moves. College is going to be wild.
Well, college has already got a ton of moves going. They don't wait.
Yeah.
Free agency starts, like, halfway through the season.
At least you called it correctly. It's not a transfer portal anymore. It's free agency.
Free agency, man. These kids are making – that kid from Wisconsin that just came from Miami was like, you don't want to release me? No worries. I'm just going to unroll myself. And then next week he was enrolled at the University of Miami. So, I mean, it's a different game. Yeah. It's going to be crazy. You think about, like, the NFC North. they'd have, you look at that coaching carousel: Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell, Kevin O'Donnell, and Matt LaFleur. That's a pretty good group of coaches, man.
Hey, before we leave, do we need to start talking about this Sean McDermott coaching tree? Because there's a lot now. It's starting to get pretty heavy out there.
I'm surprised Joe Brady's even still part of the organization. I thought he would jump on something already.
I mean, but let's think about this because, I mean, we always talk about like the Andy Reid coaching tree. There's that big thing with the Bill Belichick coaching tree and how, not a lot of his guys have had success. And it might be because they try and, do what Bill does and only Bill can do what he does. But, then there was the Andy Reid. But now we have Sean McDermott. And a lot of these guys are coming from Sean McDermott. We have Liam Cohen, right? Isn't Matt LaFleur from his coaching staff as well? Did they not coach together?
But does Liam Cohen count as a Bills? He was there for like a hot minute.
He's hopped more teams than. Never mind.
He's had so many jobs. Like, then we have to add him to Sean McVay's coaching tree. Like,
he's the J-Lo of the NFL.
Well, let's jeez, Pete, man. All right, well let's just look at this really quick. I'm gonna actually look it up really quick.
LaFleur, McDaniels, O'Connell, and Shanahan were all on Jay Gruden's team when they had RG3 and they were known as the Redskins. So there's that. I don't think Jay Gruden owns that actual tree, but there's that to at least consider. I think McDermott's
circle back to Bill Parcells. They all originate from like Belichick. All of them come from like the Bill Parcells tree. It's like
pretty much. Like you rarely have the one-off.
You have Chicago. You have the Chicago Bears offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. You have the Atlanta Falcons head coach Raheem Morris. You have then you also have the offensive coordinator Zach Robinson in Atlanta.
Liam Cohen. You're saying he produces?
You have Matt LaFleur. You have Zach Taylor. You have Brandon Staley. You have Kevin O'Connell with Minnesota. There's a large tree. There's a lot of branches on this tree now.
Are they considered part of his tree or that they coached with him at some point? So there's a big difference when you are the head coach and you are mentoring other assistant coaches.
Everybody that I just listed was on McVay's LA Rams staff at some point in their careers.
McVay or McDermott?
McVay.
Because you asked about McDermott's tree.
Oh, did I say McDermott? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
McVay's tree, yeah, I can understand. Yeah.
I meant McVay.
I don't think he wants you to add Raheem Morris to it, though.
No.
You can take that one off.
Well, at the end of the day, it's the truth. You're not going to have, some branches die off and have to fall, But
hopefully, you cut that one off.
But I mean, think about how, there's been a lot of success now, at least getting to that head coaching gig, in the NFL because of Sean McVay.
I mean, if he'll hire me, I'll do it.
Yeah,
I think it comes from. It's not. You got to look at it this way too. Like Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, and even Sean McVay, right? Bill Parcells, Jimmy Johnson. They all understood Schottenheimer as well. Walsh. They all understood that, yes, you have to fit within the tactics and the strategy, but they understood how to motivate people to get to do what they needed them to do, and not just from a coaching standpoint, but to leverage their players and how they perform. Like you took a undrafted draft pick and Kurt Warner won a Super Bowl. You took Russell Wilson and the Legion of Boom and won a Super Bowl. You got Sean McVay, who took the Rams, who have been struggling since the best show on turf, and won a Super Bowl. I think it's not just the strategic standpoint from, who do I need to put in place? It's, okay, personality-based. How do I get you to leverage your offense, your defense, your special teams, your wide receivers, and to move in unison to win a Super Bowl? Andy Reid had what he had in Philly and almost won at least twice. Now, he's found it with the Chiefs. It was later in his career, but look who he's coached. Look at McVay. I think he took a very similar model and was like, okay, if it's working for him, it should probably work for me, and he tweaked it, right? He's got a different personality. The dude is super energetic.
Well, I mean, and so I just actually looked this to make sure that I was correct. But Sean McVay comes from under John Gruden, Mike Shanahan, and I think he was with Jay Gruden as well.
Yes.
But I mean, John Gruden, Mike Shanahan, man, that's some heavy hitters right there, and they're energetic guys. They're football guys, right? So
Shanahan tree is pretty good because
Yeah.
it has
Yeah.
McDaniel.
Minus Kyle, but yeah.
Yeah.
well, again,
Kids always
some
mess
some
with it.
branches have to die off, So I mean, but it was something that I just thought about in this coaching carousel, because now we're starting to see kind of this next generation of coaches come along, with this next generation of quarterbacks. So we're in a whole new era, really, of football, going into, coming to the end of this year and going into next year. So this would be really exciting. But we'll be back next week to talk everything Super Bowl. I'm excited for it. I know Scooter is super excited for this game. I think he might be wearing the red war paint on his face next week, in support of his beloved Kansas City Chiefs.
My brain's on the back of my wall. You got it.
He might even wear, a referee's shirt just to show off their alternate uniforms, like everyone has been saying. So, but we'll be back next week to talk the Super Bowl. Let us know Hey, shout out your predictions now. Let us know who you got in the Super Bowl. You got the Kansas City Chiefs or you got the Philadelphia Eagles? Will we see the first ever three-peat, like Carlos is saying, with the history being made? Are we going to be witness to that? Maybe, maybe not. Or can Philadelphia end another three-peat? Because the last team that was up for it was the New England Patriots, and they ended up winning. I mean, it was like Patriots won the Super Bowl, then they lost to Philadelphia, then they won against the Los Angeles Rams. But again, they went to 3 Super Bowls in a row, and the reason why they didn't three-peat was because of the Philadelphia Eagles. So will history repeat itself? And that sits next Sunday, and we will talk about all of it next Sunday. But we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Follow us on all of our social media. We're on Instagram. We're on X. We're on Facebook. We love to banter with you. We love all of the chaos that happens in our comment section. So continue to bring it on. Yeah, we will see you guys next Friday.
Beard Zone out.